Okay. Hello, friend. I wanted to show you how I make cold brew with a French press. So I just finished washing this French press, so it's in its various parts. Here's the main part. This is usually just a rod with a thread on the end, and this one has two screens. These screens just stack on top of each other. This part with the kind of spring that goes around the perimeter goes on the top. This goes on the bottommost, and this has a little shaft that sticks up. Goes through these holes. This goes on top. And it's good to know how to disassemble this just to be able to get a good clean on all of this. So that's how that's going to go. This is the beaker portion. Many come apart, not all of them, but if it comes apart you can really clean it quite nicely. And okay, so there we go. So one of the important things is knowing how much water to coffee ratio. So this is about a quart. So I think I'm going to shoot for 800 grams of water and 54 grams of the coffee that I'm going to use. The ratios that people tend to say is good ratios are between 1 to 13 to 1 to 18. So what I just said, 800 to 54 is about a 15 to 1 ratio. So that means for every 1 gram of coffee, you're adding 15 grams of water. The coffee I'm going to use tonight is a ground coffee from Intelligentsia, and I have my handy dandy $10 Walmart kitchen scale. There, now I can see it. I have some filtered water that I like the taste of. The taste of the water makes a big difference in the taste of the coffee. So generally speaking, you should make sure that you like the taste of the water that you're using to make the coffee. Alright, that came out to 805, and that came up to right here on the French press. Alright, for me, in coffee, rule number 1 is to not break anything. Rule number 2 is to not make a mess. So I'll use this little tray, and you can dish this up into about anything, but I will use this cup, and you can use a scoop. This bag is a little tight to get a scoop in there, so I'm shooting for 54 grams. This smells delicious. Alright, well that came out to 57. That'll be alright within tolerance. So you can see how much I'm using. It's a fair amount. I do like to kind of make sure that there's space in my beaker of my French press. And I'll need something to stir it. I'll give it a good stir. So some people have a method where they'll add the coffee first, and then they'll add a small amount of water and let that sit for a minute, a few minutes. For me, for this, the main purpose of that method of adding just a little water and letting it sit for a minute is to allow CO2 from the roasted beans to escape. So this coffee is older, and it's ground. This was roasted a while ago, July of 2023, so more than a year ago. This is some pretty old coffee. It's pretty tasty. I'm still excited for it. Fresher often is better, but when you have really freshly roasted coffee, there's carbon dioxide that's trapped in the beans that adding that little bit of water, that initial contact with a little bit of water lets the CO2 escape more, is what I understand that to be. They call that the bloom. Sometimes if the coffee is fresh enough, you can actually see the coffee expand up and out or even bubble for the amount of CO2 that's in there. But because this is kind of older ground coffee, I didn't feel like I needed to let it bloom, and it's just convenient to do it with the water in and then the coffee on top. So I'll go ahead and stir this a lot. I'll stir it quite a bit in the beginning, and then later on, shortly before I'm going to strain it out, I'll avoid stirring it, because kind of the approach with this is that the coffee grounds will settle, and then I'll try to just decant the liquid out, having it pass through the screen here. And so the screen is just keeping the grounds that's in the decanted liquid rather than having to push back all of the grounds and such. So I will set this right here, clean up my workspace, give you a little close-up of the bag. Intelligentsia's house coffee. One thing I always like to do, one second. Uh-huh. What's up? It's in a bowl on the counter for you. Yep, no problem. Does Romney want some? Want to ask him? So one of the things that I often like to do is to just smell everything. So that just smelling the grounds is delightful. Smelling the coffee. Give it one last good stir. Leave that right here. And then I'm going to leave this till the morning. Okay, good night. Bye for now. Alright, good morning. So this is the morning after I set up my cold brew with Intelligentsia house blend, and I let it sit out all night. It has a foam across the top, and I have not disturbed it. I can see there's a bed of all the coffee grounds. So what I'm going to try to do is not disturb those coffee grounds, and I'm going to put the plunger in down till about there, and basically try to decant the coffee through the plunger. I've got a cleaned kombucha bottle that I'm going to fill up, and I've got a mug for drinking directly, and I'm going to try to set it up so when I start to pour, I'm going to just have one continuous pour to fill those both up, so that there isn't a situation where I'm going from a pouring back to a straight up, back to a pouring, because I would stir up the sediment that's at the bottom. Let's see. Okay. Before we do that, though, the stuff that's on the top, it's not, it's not going anywhere. And there can be uh, fine particulate and stuff like that. So instead of loading up the screen of the French press first thing right out of the box, I'm just going to scrape that foam off the top. This is probably like an extra step. You could go without this if you wanted, but one of my coffee coaches along the way had this as their process that they go through, and you can see that I'm getting a fair amount of stuff that was floating. Don't need to be real overboard on this. Um, that coffee coach I mentioned who has this in their videos is Jim. I'm forgetting his last name right now. I'll think of it, I'm sure. Okay, so the French press, different types have different setups. This has a screen here, so I'll orient the screen so that the screen is facing the spout. Got some grounds. Alright. Okay. So I will really gently and slowly push this down. It's about till here, if you can't see that. And here we go for taking it nice and slow. Oops. Got some air moving around in there. Alright, I'll just barely back it off to where it's not flowing. And I'll change out my vessel. Alright, that's doing pretty good. The other thing that I'm going to do with this technique is I'm going to stop short of pouring all of it. As I can see, some fines are starting to come through the mesh. So I'll tilt that back and kind of see a little bit the fine particulate and the coarser grounds. So let's give it a try. That's delicious. That's a great temperature too. It got cold just about. Well, there was some frost last night. October 1st. I can't believe that. All right. Yeah, that turned out delicious. So with the ratios that I did last night, right about the 1 to 15 ratio, can accommodate a little bit of milk, a little bit of cream, a little bit of ice without being watered down too much. Of course, those ratios are all just a guideline, and should figure out what you like. Not rely on me or somebody else telling you what to do, unless you want that. But this is more or less how I do it. So I think that's all for now. For maybe your another video, I will show how to clean out the French press the way that I like to do it. I don't like to waste any of the coffee that's still in there. That's a whole other process, and that's going to be all for now. Bye.